So, we have returned for Snowpiercer Season 4, Episode 3, titled Life Source. We open this episode with our standard monologue, this time from Ruth learning that she has a bit of a colourful past, somewhat showing where her leadership abilities actually came from. Leighton is also naturally on a bit of a warpath this episode, which I'll get into later. Basically, Leighton wants to take Big Alice, which is also New Eden's power source, to chase Snowpiercer and his child. Leighton is obviously on his own with this plan, and taking Big Alice would likely screw over the entirety of New Eden. We then return to Snowpiercer post-Audrey leaving. The entire train looks to be under some sort of martial law, with the Admiral being head honcho. It's clear the Admiral means well, at least in his own head, valuing the mission to save the world above all else, even the people on the train. In the beginning, at least, Ruth is clearly trying to help Leighton and allow him to take the train. However, Harvey and Alex are disagreeing on how to do it. However, Leighton talks Harvey into going against the council's wishes, and honestly, Leighton is just the worst this episode. I understand that he's stressed, but he's taking it out on absolutely everyone. On the other hand, though, Clark Gregg is actually doing a great job playing a bad guy as well. I don't know that I've ever actually seen him in a villain role, but he plays it really convincingly, and I hope to see him more as a villain in the future, to be honest. Throughout this episode and the last episode, Alex's nose keeps bleeding. She explains this episode that it may be due to atmospheric pressure when she's at higher altitudes. Changes in pressure can cause nosebleeds as well, so I suppose that tracks. I'm very curious to see where this story point goes, as she also mentioned earthquakes occurring last episode, and atmospheric pressure and earthquakes are considered to be linked. She also mentions to Harvey that New Eden may be a bubble, and that eventually that bubble may burst, meaning that while it is livable now, it may not be in the future. Back on Snowpiercer, Till and Ben agree to do a job for the Admiral, apparently to increase Snowpiercer's food supply, although Ben has a theory that what they're actually doing is trying to experiment on people. I feel like they were maybe a little disingenuous about having figured out the CW7 issue, and they may be using the train to troubleshoot. On top of that, I feel like their solution isn't actually going to be to warm the planet, but to make people more resistant to the cold. This would also explain why Dr. Hedwood took Leighton's child, as the kid was experimented on for cold resistance and might be the key to figuring it out, maybe. Leighton is then figured out by Ruth and Lights, and so they decide to put Leighton taking the engine to a vote. If Leighton does take the engine, however, it will only give New Eden 3 weeks to survive before he needs to return with the engine. Leighton then makes a speech to New Eden, and to be honest, it's pretty forgettable. It's then decided that he will be allowed to take the engine to go after his kid with people that volunteer. Ruth admits she didn't vote for that, but goes with him anyway. I think that's partially to help, but I feel as though there may be some duality in a future episode, especially if he can't make the timeline of getting back within 3 weeks. The Admiral and Nima figure out that Till and Ben are doing something they shouldn't be, and it turns out that the chemicals are actually a deterrent for when Big Alice comes and not for anyone on the train. I don't know if it was just me, but this episode felt a little bit convoluted, at least compared to the last two. It wasn't terrible or anything, it just felt a bit all over the place. I feel like Leighton was a bit out of character. This may be personal, but for the most part, he's always acted out of the interest of the group. Even when he lied about New Eden, he lied but for the greater good. Whereas wanting to take Big Alice without permission just felt a bit off to me. Anyway, guys, that's it from me. What did you think about this episode? Do you agree or not so much? Make sure to let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.